About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support. What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! Not quite TCG deck profile. We saw this last week. A lot of cards got announced. A lot of new cards, PogChamp, new cards. And you guys voted and I'm answered, and here is Trickstar with all the new cards in it. So the game plan of this deck has actually changed significantly with all these new cards. It has shifted from Burn My Opponent, Trickstar Candina Reincarnation Loop with Licorice to more of a Link-centric deck that fusion summons and is more of a all-in-all deck than it was before. And I'm honestly quite impressed with what they were able to do. Not from just these support cards, but with also previous support cards like Trickstar Festival. But I am going to go over the card by card, tell you what the deck is meant to do, what it's supposed to really end on, give you my overall thoughts, and it's the end of the video. So, first of all, for our Trickstars, for our monsters, we are on our best starter, Trickstar Candina. When it's normal summon, you can add a Trickstar card from your deck to your hand. Each time your opponent activates a spell trap, inflict 200 damage to them immediately after it resolves. Very powerful effect. All the Trickstars burn for the most part in one way or another, or trigger off of burning. Effects trigger off of opponent taking damage. That's the entire point of Trickstars, is your opponent is constantly taking damage at all points in the game. We are on triple Licorice. Quick effect, you can reveal this card from your hand. Target one Trickstar monster you control, except for itself. Special summon this card, and if you do, return that monster to your hand. Each time a card is added from your opponent's hand, added to your opponent's hand, inflict 200 for them for each card added. So it isn't like just drawing, it isn't just searching, but it's also adding cards back from your graveyard to your hand, bouncing cards from the field to the hand. It's all of that. It all counts to a card being added to your opponent's hand. Trickstar Licorice is also quite nice because, let's say for example, you open multiple, or you open one and you search another, and you have a card like Candina on the field that you want to normal summon next turn. You can activate both of the Licorices, or all three of the Licorices, targeting the same card, because they special summon first and then bounce the card on resolution. So you special summon all three of them, and then the first one is going to resolve, and it's going to bounce the Candina. And then the other ones are going to try to resolve, but the Candina is not there, so they'll just stick around on board. So off of one Candina and 3 cards in hand, you now have 1 card in hand being the Candina and 3 Licorices on field, meaning every time a card is added to your opponent's hand, they take 600 damage on the spot, 1200 if you have the field spell. Next for our Trickstar monsters, we're on 3 new card. We're on 3 Trickstar Hoodie. If you control a Trickstar Fusion or Link monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard for the Link summon of a Trickstar monster, you can add 1 Trickstar Fusion or 1 Trickstar Diffusion from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effective hoodie once per turn. Both Trickstar Fusion and Diffusion are quite good, especially paired with one of the new cards that they also came out with this wave of support. Next, we're on triple Trickstar Corebane. Since we are more of a Link-centric deck, we can play 3 of this. If you control no monsters, or all monsters you control are Trickstars, you can special summon this card from your hand. During the damage step, when your Trickstar monster battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the grave. That monster you control gains attack equal to its original attack until end of turn. You can only use 1 Corebane effect per turn, only once per turn. So you can't special summon it 1 turn and then in the same turn buff up another monster. It's one or the other, but most of the time when you're buffing up on your opponent's turn, or you're buffing up to kill your opponent. So it doesn't really come up too frequently where you can only use one or the other. However, if you're killing your opponent, it could come up there. Next for monsters, we're on double Narcissus. If your opponent takes effect damage, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can use this effect of Narcissus once per turn. Each time your opponent activates a monster effect in their hand or graveyard, inflict 200 damage to them immediately after it resolves. Kind of situational depending on what deck your opponent plays. However, the main reason we're playing it's a free summon when their opponent takes damage, and we have a lot of ways to do that even on our turn. We are on 1 Trickstar Rododo, or sorry, 1 Trickstar Rodode. You can discard 1 Trickstar card, target 1 Trickstar Link monster in your grave, special summon it. You can use each effective road once per turn. Each time a card is banished from your opponent's graveyard, immediately inflicts 200 damage to your opponent for each card banished. Quite good, really funny against banish related strategies. The thing is, it only targets banishment that happens when it's banished from graveyard to banished, so it's like exclusively for Orcust, funny enough. So it doesn't stop like Pot of Desires. That'd be really funny if you just domed your opponent for 2k after they desired. That'd be really funny. But yeah, we were on one of this just as like a card that we can flex into and potentially do cool things, since we can special summon Trickstars from graveyard or from hand potentially. And then lastly, for our main deck Trickstars, we're on one Lilybell. If this card's added to your hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it from your hand. You use each effective Lilybell once per turn. Once per turn, this card can attack directly. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, target one Trickstar monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So that's a way we can get back graveyard resources as well as getting guaranteed damage in on our opponent. Next, for our Trickstar spell traps, the best card in the deck, Trickstar Festival. This card is cracked, especially with the new support. This card's crazy. Special summon 2 Trickstar tokens, very light, level 1 to 0 attacks or defense. If a Trickstar monster, you can that's the only effect. That's it. It just special summons 2 tokens. No requirement on it. No nothing. It just summons 2 Trickstar tokens, level 1s. If a Trickstar monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. And then it does have a requirement. You can't normal or special summon monsters for the rest of the turn. You activate this card except for Trickstars. You only activate 1 festival per turn. But the thing is, there's no baseline requirement for activating the card. You don't need to control a specific number of monsters. You don't need to discard a card. This is just create 2 tokens. There you go. So this card is really strong. It's a free link monster. It's a free fusion monster if you have a fusion card in hand. So there's a lot you can do with it, and it is searchable. So yeah, we do want to be running all 3 of these. We are on one of the previously mentioned Trickstar Fusion. Fusion summon 1 Trickstar Fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 Trickstar monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, but you can't normal summon or special summon monsters with the same name for the rest of the turn. Cool play we could do with this if we go normal summon Candina and we manage to get to Fusion. We can fuse off using Candina, Fusion to add the Candina back to your hand. So on your next turn, you have that follow-up Candina to normal summon. Or you can, if you use Corbane, you can add it to your hand. So now you have attack modulation on your opponent's turn. There's a lot of different things you can do with Trickstar Fusion, so we are just playing that one copy. We're on triple light stage. When it's activated, add a Trickstar monster from your deck to your hand. When this card, once per turn, you can target 1 set card your opponent's spell or trap zone. While this card's in the field zone, that set card can't be activated until the end phase, and your opponent must activate it during the end phase or else send it to the graveyard. Each time a Trickstar monster you control inflicts battle or effect damage to your opponent, inflict 200 damage to them, basically doubling up on all of our Trickstar effect damage. So we are playing 3 of this because this is the best field spell. We are playing one other field spell, 1 Trickstar Light Arena. If you link summon a Trickstar monster, you can target 1 Trickstar monster in your graveyard that was used as material. Special summon in defense position but negates effects. So you can only use each effective Light Arena once per turn. Once per turn, you can target 1 set card in your opponent's spell trap zone. While this card's in the field zone, that set card can't be activated until the end phase. If your opponent must activate it during the end phase or else return it to the hand. So it's very, very similar to Light Stage. It doesn't have that extra beneficial burn. It doesn't search a card, but it does have that effect where you can lock down a back row and remove it either by bouncing it or sending it to the graveyard. And this one is an extender where it extends in the purest form, or when you link summon, you bring something back, which is quite nice, being able to get more materials on field, especially now that we're more link reliant. But that's going to be it for our Trickstar spell traps and monsters. Now onto our traps. We're on 2 Reincarnation. Banish your opponent's entire hand, and if you do, they draw the same number of cards. You can banish this card from your grave, target 1 Trickstar monster in your grave, special summon it. Secondary effect is really, really good. Not once per turn. Neither of those effects are once per turn. But we don't want to be bricking on this, so we're only running 2. We are on 1 Trickstar Diffusion, a card that's, again, searchable off of Hoodie. Diffusion reads, and this is a new card, PogChamp new card. Activate one of these effects. Fusion summon 1 Trickstar Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing its materials from your graveyard. So it's a Necro Fusion for Trickstars. Or immediately after this effect resolves, link summon 1 Trickstar Link monster. You can banish this, that's it. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 Trickstar monster you control. This turn, your opponent's monsters can't target monsters for attack except that monster while it's face up on your field. You can only use each effective diffusion once per turn. Being able to quick link or click fusion using graveyard materials during your opponent's turn is quite useful, especially given what some of the link monsters can do on summon, which is quite nice. And the quick fusion is also quite nice. However, unfortunately, the most the quick fusion really accomplishes is either doubling Trickstar Link monster effect damage, or you are buffing your Trickstar Link monster and getting a search. So typically you're going to be buffing and getting a search. However, giving your Link monster extra effect damage is useful depending on what Link monster you have already previously set up. Lastly, this is an honorary Trickstar. It's a blue Tears card, which is searchable with one of the new cards. If your opponent special summons a monster and you control a Link monster, target one of those special summon monsters, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half its original attack. If effect damage is inflicted while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, target one normal track pin in your graveyard, or in banishment, set it. But it can't be activated this turn. You can only use one Maiden of Blue Tears effect per turn and only once per turn. This being able to set back your banished reincarnation after getting your full value out of it, not just banishing your opponent's hand, but also bring back a Trickstar, but also being able to reset it and do it all again with the Maiden of Blue Tears when your opponent takes effect damage is crazy. And this is a completely searchable card with an extra deck monster, so we're only need to be playing one of it. And there's another Blue Tears card that we can be playing as well, that I'm going to be talking about when we hit the side deck. But now for our non-engine, we're on 1 Terraforming to search the field spells, 1 Talents in order to get advantage, 1 Tasking, 1 Thrust. Thrust is really good if we get interacted with because we can search our Festival, which is a normal spell card. So we can search our Festival, which is a normal spell card. We were running 1 Call by the Grave to prevent hand traps, triple Droll and Lockbird because it's really funny with reincarnation, triple Effect Veiler, and triple Infant Impermanence for a nice solid 42. However, we could definitely cut like 2 hand traps if we really wanted to, or 2 non-engine. Just wanted to jam with 13 or 14 non-engine with this deck. Now onto our extra. For our 1 monster in our extra deck that is not a Trickstar, we are of course on SP Little Knight, Format Superstar, gotta play it, all that. We are on 1 Trickstar Bloom. It needs 1 level 2 or lower Trickstar monster. We are running Lilybell for that purpose, as well as Hoodie. Trickstar Bloom, if it's Link Summon, you can make your opponent draw 1. If a face of Trickstar monster this card points to is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each card in their hand. You only use 1 Trickstar Bloom per turn. We can beneficially do this on our opponent's turn now with Trickstar Diffusion. If we end with a Lilybell, plus like a reincarnation and Droll and Lockbird, oh, that's the tastiest. Because Lilybell plus Diffusion plus Droll and Lockbird plus reincarnation, it seems like a really difficult strategy. But Diffusion is searchable with Hoodie, which is searchable via Cantina and searchable via Light Stage. Diffusion is searchable, okay, just cut this entire bit out. Even though it looks not very searchable, there are a lot of ways to get to those specific cards in this deck. Lilybell even has the claws on it to special summon itself from your hand, so it is not impossible to do, but if we were to do that, we would go Diffusion, use the Lilybell to make Bloom, Bloom on Summon to immediately make our opponents draw a card, then we can go... or after on Resolution, we can go Reincarnation, Chainlink 1, and then Chainlink 2, Droll and Lockbird, So we're on 1 Bloom. We're on a new card, 1 Colchica. Needs no 1 non-link Trickstar. You can only special summon Colchica once per turn. When a monster is destroyed by battle involving your Trickstar monster, while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card, target one of those destroyed monsters, and inflict damage to your opponent equal to its attack. You can use 1 Colchica once per turn. Really good for getting large amounts of burn damage on our opponent. If we manage to take out like a 3,000 attack monster, there's 1,500 straight to the dome, 1,700 if we have light stage up. So, get those W's where we can. We're on 1 Trickstar Devardis. Needs 2 level 3 or lower Trickstars, a little bit more difficult to make. We need to be making this with Licorice, Hoodie, or Lilybell. That's why we're playing a lot of Licorice, because this card's pretty good. You only control 1 Devardis. If this card's special summon, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent. If your opponent normal or special summons a monster, inflict 200 damage to your opponent. So every time they normal or special summon, take 200 or take 400 in the case where we have light stage up. Very powerful card, really good at adding up those numbers very quickly on summons. It's like the reverse version of Spooky Dogwood, which is funny. New card, PogChamp, new card. Here's a Trickstar Noble Angel. It needs 2 Trickstars. If this card's linked summon, you can add 1 Blue Tears card from your deck to your hand. If you have a fusion monster on your field or in your graveyard, you can target 1 Trickstar monster in your graveyard and special summon it. If effect damage is inflicted, you can target 1 face-up card on the field and destroy it. You can use each effective Noble Angel once per turn. This is the best card in the deck, period. We always want to be ending on this.
When it's summoned, we add the blue tiers, which is a pop and burn. Then we get to, if we have a fusion monster, which we really want to be doing anyway, we get to bring back an extender from our graveyard. And then if we burn our opponents, what we want to be doing anyway, we get to pop a card on the field. It's only a face-up card, unfortunately, but it's still popping a card. And it pairs really well with Maiden and Blue tiers. If your opponent, normal summons a card, special summons a card, Maiden and Blue tiers, the special summon, pop it, burn them. Oh, you took some burn damage. I'm going to pop your other card now. Like, lots of beneficial synergy in this deck. So we're playing 2 Noble Angel. We are on 1 Crimson Heart. Each time a Trickstar monster is normal or special summon to a zone this card points to, gain 200 life points. If you can discard 1 Trickstar card, this is how we're able to discard cards. Both players draw 1 card, but if your life points are at least 2,000 higher than your opponent's when this effect was activated, you can draw 2 instead. This is another way we can activate Droll on our turn in order to reincarnation our opponent for their life savings. We're on 2 of the Holly Angel, these 2 Trickstars. Each time a Trickstar is normal or special summon to a zone this card points to, inflict 200 damage to your opponents. Trickstar monsters this card points to can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. If your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar's monster effect, this card gains attack equal to damage they took until end of turn. This card can become massive on our opponent's turn. Every time they draw a card, they'll take 4, and then this will gain 4. Every time they activate a spell, they take 4, this will gain 4. Depending on which Trickstars we have out, we can really put our opponents in some pickles. So we are playing 2 Holly Angels. We're on 1 Foxglove Witch. It needs 2+ fairies. It's a link 3. It's a 2200 attack with this card. Special summon, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each card they control. If this link summon card is destroy a battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 link 2 or lower Trickstar monster from your extra deck, then inflict 200 damage for each card they control. You can use each effect of Foxglove Witch once per turn. This card being able to burn your opponent when it's summoned if they already have an established board, and then if they pop it or you run this into one of their big monsters by battle, and then you burn them for even more, and then you special summon a freebie from your extra, either being like a Holly Angel, for example. You can summon out the Noble Angel, even though you're not going to get the effect to search the blue tiers card. You can summon out your Colchica. Like, there's a lot of things you're going to be able to do with this card. So it's mostly in here just as like a modal card that we are able to run because we want to be running as many of the Trickstars as possible. We are running 1 Trickstar Delphindium. It needs 2+ Trickstars. It's a link 3 at 2200 attack. When this card attacks while pointing to a Trickstar monster, you can target your banished Trickstar cards up to the number of link monsters your opponent controls, add them to your hand, and if you do, this card gains 1000 attack for each card added until end of turn. Typically, we're not really banishing our cards unless it's off of Diffusion. However, because we are going to be banishing cards off Diffusion Summon, if we do, we can make this card in order to get all those cards back, get a 4200 guy at bare minimum, and get a lot of advantage off of it. So we are going to, be able to get a lot of advantage off of this, and this is just a card that we can make if the situation arises for it. Also really good against runic variants that do like to link summon. So there's also that. And then lastly, you thought that this archetype didn't have towers. Well, it has a pseudo towers. It has Trickstar Bella Madonna, which might sound like a Melodious card, being Mellow Madonna, but it's not. It's Bella Madonna because they're so clever over at Konami. But Bella Madonna needs 2+ Trickstars. It's a link 4. When this, while this link summon card points to no monsters, it's unaffected by other cards' activated effects. If this card points to no monsters, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each Trickstar monster in your graveyard with a different name. You can use each effect of Bella Madonna once per turn. The best situation that we can get with Bella Madonna is if we can get this into graveyard somehow and then bring it back with Rodode in the far right zone, because then there's no way this card can point to anything, because it points up, right, down, and bottom left. So there's nothing it could point to if it's in the far right zone. So there's no need to be concerned about it. It's just a 28 big bungus. But that's it for our links. Now on to our fusions. We're on 2 of the new one. New card, PogChamp, new card, Trickstar Band Dramatis. These 2 Trickstars. Your Trickstar Link monster that points to this card gains 1000 attack. You can only use each of the following effects of Dramatis once per turn. If this card is fusion summon, you can add 1 Trickstar card from your deck to your hand. with a different name from the cards you control in your graveyard. If effect damage is inflicted, you can target one face-up monster on the field, change its attack to 0. So it's a way to prevent your opponents from getting over with stuff in battle. If they take effect damage, you can change it to 0, which is quite nice. So we're playing 2 of it. And then one of the old one, Trickstar banned Sweet Guitar, needs 1 Trickstar Link monster and 1 Trickstar monster. Effect damage inflicted to your opponent by your Trickstar Link monster linked to this card is doubled. If your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar monster's effect, this card gains attack equal to the damage they took. Once per turn during the end phase of this card attack this turn, the attack gained from this effect returns to 0. And then you can add 1 Trickstar monster from your graveyard to the hand. So that's actually quite nice because if we can keep this on board for multiple turns, we can get this to be really, really large. However, it's really a little bit old-fashioned. It doesn't really keep pace with the rest, and it does need a Trickstar Link monster specifically. So unless we're using one of the Link 1s, we're going to have to waste a material functionally for it, unless we can get like a Link 2 in graveyard, but I highly doubt that. Being super consistent and where we don't want to maintain it either being in graveyard or bringing it back. So there is always that, but we are just playing one of it because it is an option we can go into. Again, this side deck isn't really a real side deck. This is more cards I was considering during the deck building process. Here is a Trickstar live stage. When this card's activated, you can add 1 Trickstar monster from your graveyard to your hand. You use each of the following effects of live stage once per turn. Also, you can't special summon monsters the turn you activate these effects, except for Trickstars, even if this card leaves the field. If you control a Trickstar Link, you can make a Trickstar token. If your opponent controls a card in the spell trap zone, you can make a Trickstar token. So this is functionally the same as Festival, whereas a 1 card make 2 tokens. You can even add a Trickstar back from your graveyard. However, it locks you into Trickstars just like the Festival does, but it also requires your opponents to have a spell trap. So this is a much better card for going second than it is for going first. Because Trickstar Festival does this one better for the most part, except it doesn't add a card from your deck to your hand. So yeah, from your graveyard to the hand. But this is a card to consider on future lists since it is a link-reliant strategy. And then here's one of the other cards I wanted to go over specifically. You see Maiden of Blue Tears? There's 2 Blue Tears cards. There's Angel of Blue Tears here. Target 1 face-up monster on the field. This controller's opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards in their hand times 200. So let's say you're in turn 1. Target one of your monsters. Your opponent takes 1k right there on the spot. Because they'll have 5 cards in hand if they haven't hand-trapped you. If effect damage is inflicted, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Set 1 normal trap directly from your hand or deck. If the set card is from the hand, it can be activated this turn. You can only use 1 Angel Blue Tears effect per turn and only once that turn. I was brewing a little bit because we can't add this and then get its effect on our opponent's turn to add a trap card. Like, for example, Reincarnation, or an even more powerful card, Different Dimension Ground. But we can actually get this set up on our first turn somewhat reliably if we do run Foolish Burial Goods in order to send the Blue Tears. Because again, there's no way we can realistically get this to the graveyard because we can't even discard this off of Crimson Heart. So we don't really have a way we can get this to the graveyard, so except via Foolish Burial Goods. So that's the only real way we're going to be getting DDG turn 1, because it only is activatable the turn it's set if it was set from hand. So since we're going to be fetching it from deck instead, most likely, we're going to have to be doing it turn 1. So that's why it's in the side deck. I don't think it was consistent enough to be included in the main deck. One other card that I was also considering for this deck was Archlord Christia. It is searchable in this deck via, not Sam World, Small World. You can use Small World to bridge any Trickstar into Effect Veiler into Christia. So there's that. But that's about the end of the profile. This deck is honestly quite neat. You can honestly really consistently set up Noble Angel plus the Fusion Monster plus Blue Tears or Reincarnation or whatever. So 1 Candina by itself ends on a Noble Angel, a Light Stage, the Blue Tears Trap, and a Trickstar Diffusion. And that's just off of 1 singular Candina. So off of 1 card, we end on 2 pops, a burn, and then follow up. Why can't we do more? So that's just off 1 card. So this deck can actually do quite a bit, which is really impressive. But that's going to be about the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, if you still are, and I'll be seeing y'all next time. Bye bye.
Thank y'all so much for watching the video, it really means a lot. If you want to talk to other Yu-Gi-Oh players in a competitive manner, please feel free to check out my Discord. We are still growing, but we would love to have you, and we plan to do some events sometime soon. You will also be able to do cool stuff like vote on future videos and topics of videos, so swing by sometime and check us out. I also started a Patreon, so that'll be linked in the description of my videos from now on. Donating would mean a lot and would help in producing these videos. Right now, there's only one tier, being Tier 1 Femboy. This tier includes access to an exclusive Discord channel where you'll be able to talk amongst other femboys and have access to discussions with me as well as getting a shout out in every video following your patronage. Thank you so much for all your support.